All right, guys, we are live. It is the Gashouse gang, the gang of two today. Bernie Miklasz, Kevin Wheeler with you here. We got a lot of ground to cover. We'll be talking some Cardinals here at the beginning, a little Tyson Paul fight later on, some college football. So we're going to have a fun Gashouse gang. Bernie, we're going to talk boxing. Well, pseudo boxing. It may not be real boxing.
Yeah, I must admit, man, I'm not going to be a snob. I must admit, I want to watch. I want to watch that thing. I do. I covered a lot of Mike Tyson's big fights back in the day, and so maybe it'll help me go back into my past and bring up some pleasant memories, or maybe some unpleasant memories. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, so that's a little tease. We're going to get to that a little bit later on. As I mentioned, some college football, also some Cardinals in a second. But let's take care of a little business. Now, if you look, let's say I got to point the right way. If you look above Bernie's head, you can see a little van there. You see that, Bern? Your friends at Saliga Heating and Cooling jumping on board with the Gashouse gang. Welcome aboard, fellas. Welcome aboard.
I just got to say a couple things real quick. I've had an association with Saliga Heating and Cooling for about 15 years. They've come to our home to make sure we're okay, but also just knowing their business. And I've been very proud to represent them on radio because to me, Saliga Heating and Cooling, no disrespect to anyone else, but they are amazing in what they do. And they are 100% across the board, trustworthy, credible, knowledgeable professionals. So I wanted to officially welcome them aboard. Thank Dan Saliga for doing that. And we are proud. We are proud to have Saliga Heating and Cooling affiliated with the Gashouse gang.
Yeah, absolutely. Get this Gashouse gang up and rolling, and Saliga helping us do just that. All right, so let's get into it, man. Let's get into some Cardinal stuff. I want to talk about Lars Nootbaar in a minute. But I want to start with some advice because we talked about this on DGS. I think it was yesterday about mindset. Like, how do you look at the upcoming season? I wanted to, I guess I'll throw out some a bit of advice first, and you can follow with whatever you want. But my advice is a simple one: is this year, stop living and dying with every day's lineup. Stop living and dying with every move that needs to be made every single day. This is about letting some people figure it out through difficulties. This is not about get him out of the lineup. He's not hitting. No, they need to learn how to do this. And I brought up with Dave and Rachel and Andrew, Bernie, and I can't remember if I brought it up when you were on with us or not, but in all professions, in all walks of life, you have to let people get through the tough times to see if they can take care of business when, at later times. So if in our profession, you were dumped or sent back down to, I joked about it being Des Moines. So sorry, Des Moines, I'm not really trying to take a shot, but like if you got demoted in a market for 1 month of struggling as a columnist, as a radio host, as a beat writer, none of us would ever be here. Like everybody's going to struggle in a really competitive environment sometimes, and you have to live with it. And my advice to Cardinals fans is accept that now. Accept that now, because long term, that's where you're going to get the benefit. You're going to get the benefit of seeing what Walker and Gorman and other young players, Victor Scott, whoever, what they can learn from struggling and apply that so they don't. Because so many players, Bernie, I don't know what percentage you would say. I would say probably in the 80 to 90% range. Don't just hit the ground running and roll forever. They're not all Juan Soto. That's rare. That's the unique guy. That's not what happens. Most guys struggle when they're young, and you got to let them do it, man. You just like raising kids. You got to let your kids fall down and get hurt sometimes.
Well, I agree with you 100%. And I know that there is at least an element of the Cardinals supporters who are really jaded and very cynical about everything. And by the way, I'm not really going to dog them for feeling that way, because the Cardinals have let them down and they haven't been very transparent. They've tried to like sell a narrative every offseason, and then it doesn't really turn out the way that people were anticipating. So I get the cynicism. I truly do. But this is in a whole new situation now. This is a whole new realm. I mean, they really are. I don't even know what to call it. I get tired of trying to put a title on it, but they recognize that they have fallen behind the industry standards, which, by the way, they once led in terms of player development, instruction, minor league system, all the advanced stuff, all the technology. loaded with great instructors, doing everything they can to give themselves a competitive advantage, which includes preparing young players the best that they can be prepared in the minor leagues to give them a better chance to succeed earlier in their careers. So this isn't just, I hear from people and they're so jaded about it. It's like, oh, no. You people in the media just keep saying that and you're going along with it. This is all about them just wanting to have cover for slashing payroll. And listen, man, if Bill DeWitt could be on the phone with us right now, he would say that Bernie Miklasz has like ripped me a lot. I don't hesitate. If I think there's something that I should raise hell about, I do. But and again, I'm taking the long way to get to your point, and I apologize, but there is a layer to this.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going to be the guy that at scoopsnetwork.com and through other things I've done, my own radio show that I used to have at KFNS and now on my YouTube channel, if I am going to call the Cardinals out and say, you have let your minor league and player development system deteriorate and you have fallen way behind the industry standards and it's caught up to you, and that's why you're now cycling in mediocrity. If I'm going to raise Cain and just holler about that over and over and over again, calling out ownership, calling out the baseball front office, if I'm going to do that for basically the last 2 years straight without interruption, what kind of phony hypocrite would I be once they make the decision, we screwed up and we have to do this over again? We got to get back to what we did when Bill DeWitt hired Jeff Luna. We lost our advantage in the marketplace that we used to have. So I've been raising Cain about it and going nuts for 2 years. So what? Now they're finally doing what me and others were telling them, you have to do this. And they finally do it. And then what? I'm going to go, oh, they're only doing this because they're cheap. This is all a show. I mean, listen, man, I get cynical. I get jaded. But in this case, I'm being consistent to what the heck I've been hollering about for 2 years. And it's overdue. It's way past due. And we can blame them 1,000 times, as I have, for letting it happen. That's a fair competition. I mean, that's a fair complaint. But they have to do this. And part of it is, what Chaim Bloom has got an amazingly detailed plan. There is no detail that has been left unattended. This thing is as comprehensive as anything they've ever done as an organization. And the cost is no object. I think John Mozeliak in his season-ending news conference, I think he kind of downplayed the cost a little bit. I have it on good authority. It's much higher than maybe the Cardinals were saying. And I do know this for a fact that when Chaim Bloom presented this mega plan that hits all areas, Bill DeWitt Jr., the chairman, Bill DeWitt III, they said, go do it. Don't worry about the cost. Go do it. And so there are different ways to invest your money. In this case, instead of overpaying for average-ish, mediocre, non-difference making free agents and having more spending mistakes, which don't really get you where you want to go, they're choosing to put the big investment down below that's going to pay off in the long term. I think that's a smart plan. I think they were too late to get to it, but they've gotten to it. So I think people need to just kind of understand what's going on here and not be so jaded about everything. And to your point, and I'll shut up after this, my friend, about young players, you have to let them play, and you can't form snap judgments. You can't declare them failures like so many people did, who are at least in my timeline and in our mutual friend Derek Gould's chats at STL today, the great Derek Gould.
Yeah.
Mason Wynn was last 2023 when he came up and he hit
1 year ago at this time. 1 year ago at this time.
Derek, our friend Derek Gould's in the chat every week fending people off. This Mason Wynn's nothing. And they talk about his defense. He's terrible defensively. And he was terrible defensively in the minors. And he hit 172. And here the Cardinals go again. They're trying to con their fans, overhyping a prospect that isn't that good. All because the guy at a very young age, came to the major leagues ahead of schedule And the first month he was awful. The second month he made changes. That's what smart people picked up on. Yeah. He made changes. His first month in the big leagues, Mason Wynn basically didn't walk and he struck out a lot. He could self-correct and say, well, wait a minute, I got to flip that around. And then his second month in the big leagues in 2023, a lot of walks, fewer strikeouts. And we know what happened because they stayed with him. So look, I know that we all have the attention span of one of my cats, like you know how you get sometimes something gets in the house, a fly or whatever, and they just go nuts from room to room, looking everywhere. I know that we all have the attention span, many of us do, of a cat chasing a fly inside the house. Okay, I get that. But did we not learn anything at all from the Mason Wynn experience, right? Jordan Walker was really good as a rookie and then had some speed bumps. I didn't anticipate he would collapse in the second year. But does that mean you give up on him? Does that mean you give up on Nolan Gorman? Because the people that say, well, I'll trade him. You trade him, he hits 38 bombs somewhere, and then they're the same people going to be calling Sports Open Line, sending text messages, bombing X, bombing Threads, bombing every social media apparatus there is, talking about, the Cardinals, see, they screwed up again. You got to let these guys play. You got to give them a full opportunity to find out a lot more about who they are and whether they can be fixed. And you have to give them the help that they haven't gotten in terms of getting fixed. I went on too long. I apologize. But
no, hey, man, that's exactly the point, right? I mean, as an example, the lack of patience with Walker, what we might not fully understand is maybe that's just he's a slow starter. I mean, there are big league players that don't play as well in April as they do in May, June, July, August, September. I mean, every player is a little bit different, and he's never even been given the opportunity to play through it because the team has been like, oh, crap, our record's not good enough, so we got to make changes.
Right. No, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So, and I don't know what your experience is on your timeline. But there was, in fact, it was on my. This isn't me trying to sneak in a gratuitous plug for my YouTube channel, but one of the wonderful people to subscribe just brought up Tyler O'Neill again. Well, he hit 31 home runs for Boston. We didn't get anything for him. I said long before they actually moved him, I said, and basically most Cardinals fans agreed, you're not going to get much for him. His stock's really low right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't stay healthy.
Scott Boras kind of, finally got through that skull a little bit about, hey, this is a big year. You're going to be a free agent. So let's buckle up, big boy. And he hit 31 home runs. But the thing of it is, I didn't expect them to get anything. And so I told the guy, I said, anybody who honestly is saying that at the time they realized that you just had to move him. You just had to, and you weren't going to get much. Anybody who's now claiming they said the opposite, I don't know. I got one of those machines. Maybe I can hook you up to see if you're telling the truth. I don't think maybe you are. But anyway, go ahead, my friend.
Yeah. It's a fascinating thing. It's the Gashouse Gang, by the way. Obviously, all of our social medias at KMOX News on Twitter, Facebook.com/KMOX Sports, YouTube.com/@KMOX Sports, and we have people watching on all of those platforms. This will be podcasted later. And of course, tomorrow it'll be Bernie. I keep pointing the wrong way with Bernie, because the camera's reversed and I keep doing the thing where I'm pointing where I see it. But Bernie will be with Matt Pauley tomorrow.
Right.
All right. Another Cardinals topic. And this is kind of along the lines of Tyler O'Neill. So that was a really great transition. Because I want to talk about Lars Nootbaar. You did a great video about him on your YouTube channel, The Bernie Show. And I find Lars Nootbaar to be that same kind of situation where when he plays, he's super productive. I mean, you look at the statistics, the numbers are good. His expected numbers are even better. And if you go to his page at Baseball Savant, any of you guys that don't believe in that stuff, well, okay, then you don't believe in hitting the ball hard, which is something that's been taught in baseball since the sport was invented. But if you go look at his bat speed, his chase rate, his average exit velo, his hard hit rate, all of those numbers indicate that his real numbers are actually too low, that he's been unlucky, that he should be better than that. But the problem is staying on the field. So let's get into this for a second, because I think I think Newt's really important. This is an important year to figure out, is he a guy that we can keep around as a productive top of the order guy, which is what his talent says he is, or is this a guy that's just injury prone and he's going to be part-time and you either accept that and build the roster around it or you move him?
No doubt about it. I mean, I looked this up in 2022. It wasn't an injury issue because I wanted to make sure I had like his career trajectory, accurate. But he came up, he got sent down, came up, sent down, came up, sent down. It's like three different cycles of being demoted and called up. Yeah. And that's why his games played were not that much. But that was a baseball thing. It had nothing to do with injuries. But over the 23 and 24 seasons, he was on the IL 5 times, and it cost him 103 days missed in seasons over the 2 years.
Yeah, that's
I also did a study, and I don't have it available. I wouldn't want to bore people with it anyway, but I also did a study, and I found that Lars Nootbaar's best months in baseball as a Cardinal were in the months where he had the most plate appearances. The correlation being he doesn't just have to play, he has to play a lot. He has to stay healthy long enough to play a lot.
Yes.
Because the more he plays and the more at bats that he puts together, his performance goes up and up and up. But when he has to shut down and miss a month because of an injury, then it takes him a long time to get his timing back.
Yeah.
And it's a true disruption, right?
Yeah.
And I was looking at this yesterday for something that I did, and I didn't mention this on the video because I actually looked at it later. In the last 2 years, 23 and 24, Lars Nootbaar, there are like 11 months where he's played. Okay. 11 months where he's played over the last 2 years combined. He's only had 100 plate appearances in a month 3 times.
Wow.
Out of 11. So it isn't just the injuries. It's also the after effect of the injuries because it just gets him out of rhythm and timing and all that stuff. So he has started an average of 104 games the last 2 seasons. They need that. You tell me what you think. They need that to get what, 140?
Yeah.
140 maybe, 138. It's got to be a lot more than 104 because the thing of it is, he is a difference maker.
Yeah.
Every number there is reaffirms that. I have people telling me, oh, he's no better than a 4th outfielder.
Nonsense.
I'm not sure how much baseball these people watch that say stuff like that. He's a really good player, but he's got to play, and he can't continue to have these disruptions. But something you alluded to, he's as important as anybody on the Cardinals team as far as he's got to be what we all think he can be and what we have seen him be.
Yeah.
In between the injury interruptions, the dude has got one of the top, he's got one of the top 10 walk rates in baseball. Yeah. I mean, his on base percentage is great. He's got slugging over 400.
Yeah. He's in the 98th percentile in walk rate.
Right.
98th percentile. that's elite.
Yeah. But again, like I said in the video, so for people watching, man, I'm sorry to be redundant, but like Tony La Russa would say, I talked to him. I said, well, how do you personally assess the value of a player? It's all talent, right? No, it's not all talent. What do you mean? He said, you got to go to the post.
Yeah.
And he used the horse racing analogy. He said, you can be fastest racehorse ever, but you can't get to the post. You ain't going to win any races. You got to get to the post.
Yeah.
Lars Nootbaar does not get to the post often enough, and he's got to get to the post. If he gets to the post, he gets to the starting gate 140 times next season, you will see his full impact. I don't blame people for getting frustrated and impatient with him, but let's not act like he can't play. That's where, why do people have to be so extreme? We can all say the injuries, I'm tired of it. I'm frustrated. Fair. But you don't have to go over the deep end, into the deep end by saying, oh, he can't play. No, he can play very well. He just needs to get to the post. That's all.
Yeah. It's like I like the way that you phrased it with Tony saying the old football saying is the best ability is availability.
There you go.
If you can't play, it doesn't matter how good you are. Right. And that's the number one thing. But what's funny, I can sum up what people don't like about Lars Nootbaar in 2 words: batting average. those are the people that are strung up on batting average. But if you're looking at
Is it? Well,
ability,
I'm sorry. Pardon me. I'm looking at my clock here. It says 2024. Is it? Are you sure it's not
1984.
No, or maybe like. Wait a minute. If it says 1957 here.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And again, I think we all agree that batting average matters in that it's a subcomponent of on-base percentage and slugging percentage and all of that. So yes, it has value, but it's only as a piece of something else, because when you look at it, on-base percentage, as you mentioned with his walk rate, top 2% in baseball in his walk rate. Nobody chases outside the zone less than Lars Nootbaar. Literally nobody. He is in the 100th percentile in chase rate, which means he only swings at pitches that you can hit, only swings at pitches in the zone. His average exit velocity is in the top 12%. His hard hit rate is in the top 9%. Oh, by the way, his range is in the top 30%. His arm strength is in the top 25%. This is not just about one particular thing. He's very gifted athletically,
across the
strong,
board.
Can run a little bit. And all of this is why it's so critical to see if he can play. If he can just play 85% of the games, if you could just get him to 140 games played, you're probably looking at a 2020 guy with a 360 on base.
And I'm a big fan. I don't know when I made the conversion. It was a long time ago. I mean, a long time ago. And I give Bill James credit. I give Rob Nair credit, because reading those guys and Rob Nair was an accolade of Bill James. And Rob did a piece on Ray Langford. And I was one of these big mouths who are always talking about, oh, he strikes out too much. His batting average. And Rob Nair said, in St. Louis, I'm familiar with a lot of criticism over him. So look at how many times this guy walks. Look at his on-base percentage. Look at his value of getting on base and not making outs. Because as Earl Weaver famously said, you only get 27 of them. They're pretty precious. Don't throw them away.
Right.
And I said, well, wait a minute. That's really a good point. This guy's got awesome on-base percentage, which is much more important than the batting average. And it just sort of, I had a come to Bill James moment, which is like, wait a minute. There really is a different way to look at things that we have been taught through the generations by our fathers, our mothers, our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our older uncles, whatever.
Yeah.
The loudmouth neighbor next door, So yeah, and it's funny, we're still doing this. After not fully understanding Ray Langford's offensive profile back in the day, we're still doing it. At this time, it's Lars Nootbaar. With all the information's out there, man, it would take you. There's nothing to be afraid of. It would take you take you 5 minutes to figure out if a guy has skill or not. It's just really not a big project.
No,
it's not going to take you 2 weeks. It'll take you 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's data that we just didn't have before, but we do now. It's measured and publicly available now, and it's all the old cliches. So this is what kills me about it, and I'll stop my rant. But what kills me about it is these are just the old school ideas. Hit the ball hard. Yeah. Get a good pitch to hit. Ted Williams, number one rule of hitting: get a good pitch to hit. Ted Williams. Right. He's not new school. And by the way, Ted also talked about launch angle. He just didn't use that term. They used the term loft. You want to have a nice loft in your swing. So terminology has changed, but the basic fundamental ideas are the same. We can just measure them now. And that really is kind of what we're talking about with Lars. It's not that old school Scots. I mean, all those things I listed, Bernie, those are all the things that apply to the number of tools, right? Is he a 5-tool player? Well, you got hit for average. That's 1. Power is 2. Run is 3. Field is 4. Throw is 5. And I think over time, we've actually thought of a 6th tool, which is strike zone control, which includes walks, not chasing outside the zone, right? So if you look at the 6 just tools, he's a 4.5 tool guy. The only thing he really has as a negative is his speed is a little below average. But for a left fielder, who cares?
And I would like to see him. One thing I don't understand. Well, first of all, he wasn't available a lot last year. I understand
That's the
that.
problem, yeah.
But Brendan Donovan could have batted leadoff anyway. And people get really mad at me when I say I personally didn't like Mason Wynn batting leadoff because he doesn't get on base enough. Listen, can he evolve? Yeah. he has a poor, not a mediocre. He has a poor walk rate. He does not draw walks. And so he had a 290 on base percentage as the leadoff man last year. Now, when we talk about all the things that go wrong with the offense or went wrong, when you have a 290 OPB in the leadoff spot, no matter who that player is, that's not a good fit. It's not a good idea. In fact, Kevin Wheeler, I know you like my stats because I spend hours looking this stuff up, and I found it. Cardinals last year out of the leadoff spot, they had a 292 on base percentage. That was the lowest in the leadoff spot in a season by a Cardinals team since 1917. Okay. And so when I used to say, look, I love Mason Wynn, I just don't love him as a leadoff hitter because I want to see a high on base percentage in that spot. I don't know. Call me silly. This is what Earl Weaver taught me. This is what Tony La Russa taught me. I guess they're dumber than people that, think that it was great to put Wynn in the leadoff spot. I don't understand Ali Marmol because you have a guy like Lars Nootbaar. And again, I know his availability was an issue last year, but you have Lars Nootbaar who has great statistics as a leadoff hitter in his career. And just go look at 2023, go to Baseball Reference and look in his splits and look at when batting first. Fantastic numbers. And because he'll walk about 14% of the time, he'll strike out less than 20% of the time. He's got some power, so he's dangerous. He makes the pitchers work. He will not get himself out by doing dumb things at the plate. It's actually the ideal composition of a leadoff man. And by the way, the ideal composition of a leadoff man is like, well, Lars can't steal 60 bases. I don't want it to. I don't believe in like just running to run for people that are stuck in the past and then who don't pay any attention to how many times you get caught. I don't want to see Lars Nootbaar or any leadoff man who can't steal bases give outs away. That's just stupid baseball. I don't know why that's so hard to understand. But anyway, Nootbaar's got everything you would look for in a leadoff man. So why is this man not going to be their leadoff hitter going into camp next year? Or are they going to do it all over again by putting a sub 300 leadoff man in the top spot who does not walk? And so you have to the guys you put behind your leadoff hitter are usually your best hitters. That doesn't mean they're going to come through. And the Cardinals were a disaster last year with runners in scoring position. But you got to get people on base in front of them because it's the only way they can do anything is to have those opportunities. So anyway, I had to get that one off my chest.
All right.
1917, lowest leadoff on base percentage by a Cardinals team since 1917.
Yeah, let's fix that.
Who the hell was in the White House then? I can't even remember. I wasn't around.
George Washington. That's Bernie Miklasz. I'm Kevin Wheeler. This is the Gashouse gang. And by the way, welcome, Saliga Heating and Cooling. You can look up in the corner there just above Bernie's head. I don't think we designed it so it would be above your head, Bernie, but it's perfect because they're your guys. They're on board supporting us on the Gashouse gang.
No, they're the best. Give them a call, 314-481-7333. Dan Saliga, fourth generation owner operator of that family business. There'll be 100 years, 3 years from now in business. And there's in the same building down on Gravois. SaligaHeatingandCooling.com at SaligaHeatingandCooling.com.
All right, we've got a couple segments left, probably 10, 11, 12 minutes, something like that. So let's split that in half. Let's do a few minutes on college football for the weekend. It's not the greatest weekend, although even games that don't look like they could be super competitive still have implications for the playoffs. But there are only two ranked games this weekend. That's Mizzou and South Carolina. So that's 23 against 21 on the road at South Carolina for Mizzou, and then Tennessee and Georgia. And for Georgia, that's a playoff game. And for Tennessee, it may be. And what's fascinating is like you're looking at the Big Ten and the SEC. There are going to be some teams. There are going to be a lot of teams, it looks like, with two losses. And then how do we sort it all out? Do you know, Bernie, do they give preference to teams that make it to a conference championship game? In other words, if you get to the conference title game, are you considered the number 2 team in the conference even if you lose? Or could it be that you get two-loss teams in there and the loser goes out and a 2-loss team that didn't even make that game gets in because they don't have a third loss? Like, I'm not sure how they're going to do that or how this committee weighs things, which, by the way, hits on a bigger point that you've touched on. I think we need a better set of criteria from the committee as to what matters, because you went on a great rant on DGS about strength of schedule. That matters, but I don't want to, you don't have to give me a mathematical equation, but how about just a list of things that matter that we're going to, so that we can discuss those and that you can let us know really how teams fit your criteria. So this weekend, maybe not a ton of ranked on ranked, but every game involving a potential playoff team matters. And, I think it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays, especially in the two biggest conferences, Big Ten, SEC, with how do two lost teams sort out, and can you possibly be hurt by being in your conference championship game?
Well, Georgia, Tennessee is the biggest game of the day, with all due respect to Mizzou and South Carolina. By the way, South Carolina is playing excellent football.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
They're, if you go to the Sagarin ratings, they're like number 10 in the country. FPI's got them at number 15. They lost by 2 at Alabama, and then they've won their last 3 SEC games: Oklahoma, Texas A&M, I think Vandy, 3 in a row by an average of about 25 points, average margin of victory. They're on fire right now. Mizzou's got a very tough assignment, which is why they're a 2-touchdown underdog, because they have an excellent pass rush. Their young quarterback is dynamic, running, throwing, everything. They are on a roll. So that's going to be a tough one. But Georgia's got to win this. Like I did on Dave Glover's show, I will absolutely defend and stick up for Georgia the fact they've lost 2 games and somehow, you got to push them way down. No, you don't. Nah. That's stupid. They played the toughest schedule in the country.
Yeah.
They have more top 20. They have more wins against ranked teams than everyone else in the top 5 teams right now in the playoff system. The top 5 teams. Georgia's got more wins against ranked teams than those 5 teams have put together combined. And so somehow they've concluded, because Georgia lost to a great, and I mean now they are a great Ole Miss team, and they lost at Alabama. And by the way, after making an incredible comeback, which really, really validated how great they were, and they go into Texas and knock off the number 1 team and just bullied them. But somehow you lose at Alabama by this much, and you did get your butt kicked at Ole Miss, but that's a really good team.
Yep.
Somehow you got to go to the back of the line, and you have all these frauds at the top who haven't played anybody. What has Penn State done other than lose a close one, pretty close one, to Ohio State? Who have they beat? Who has Texas beat? Oh, wow. They took care of Vandy by 2 points. Hook 'em horns. I mean, who the heck have the Longhorns beat, right? There are other examples of this.
My guys.
Tom Ackerman. I love you, man. I root for Indiana because of you, but I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, same for my guys, man. We haven't beat anybody.
Yeah, and they had a couple, narrow escapes. The officials probably helped them out against Virginia Tech. That's okay. Right. So I don't understand why all of a sudden strength of schedule does not matter. I just don't understand why that's been thrown aside. So if you're Georgia, you better win at home against Tennessee. Tennessee may not have their quarterback at 100%. And I'm not even saying Georgia Tech's playing great, but it's still Georgia, and they've played the toughest schedule in the land, and they've gotten a lot of wins against top 25 teams, unlike the other people up near the top. And they've only played 3 home games. 6 have been neutral site or on the road. So the schedule has been really hard, and I'm stunned by the lack of respect shown to Georgia by that committee. The committee chairman, the Michigan athletic director, he was asked, for example, about who did? He was asked about LSU, not LSU. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank now. Who beat Florida last week?
Oh, it was Texas.
Texas. I'm sorry. Thank you. He was asked, like, well, why did they move up other than the fact that some other teams lost? Like, what did they do to get promoted? And he actually said, like, oh, they beat Florida decisively. It was impressive. Florida's down to their 3rd string quarterback, who's a walk-on, and Florida ain't that good anyway. But they're making up stuff to justify propping up Texas. Oh, that was an impressive win. But by what measure was that an impressive win? Right?
No, it's not.
I mean, it's just don't make this stuff up every week to justify your stupid decisions. That's all I have to say.
Yes.
Be consistent.
Thank you. Completely agree. All right, so Gas House Gang, we got a few more minutes. One last segment. Bernie Miklasz, Kevin Wheeler with you here. By the way, if you guys ever want to comment stuff, I mean, we can see the comments. I can see them on the side of the screen. Like we'll do a shout out to Carol Blanton. Carol said,
"Hey, Carol,
finally got some good sports talk. Thank you. We appreciate that." It says, not sure what time you guys come on, but every day around this time, I will be sitting in. Well, make sure noon every day, because we do this every single day at noon. On Mondays, it's Bernie and me and Matt Pauley and Tom Ackerman. We're all together. And then on other days, we kind of mix it up. So like today, it's me and Bernie. Tomorrow, it'll be Bernie and Matt. So we got a nice little mix going on, but every day at noon, Twitter, I'm not calling it X, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. X makes it sound dirty, Bernie.
It kind of does.
We're on X. No, I mean, everybody knows what Twitter is. Anyway, on any of those platforms, podcast will be coming later on. Obviously, you can find that at KMOX.com under Cardinals Conversations. And I don't think it's up yet, but I think eventually it's going to be Spotify and Apple Podcast as well. So
there's a drag. There's a time delay with that.
Yeah, it takes a little time to get it set up.
Be patient.
Apparently.
It'll kick in. It'll kick in.
Just go to KMOX.com, Cardinals Conversations, if you want a podcast. But thanks. And if you guys want to keep bringing in comments, the more we go, the more of those we're going to do. Right now, we're just kind of like setting the field for like how we want to go about doing things. It's the second week of doing it, but we're going to include a lot more feedback. So bring those comments or send them via those social media outlets, and we'll definitely bring them into the show.
And I also want to mention, because I monitor this too, because since I'm a part of it, proud to be part of the Gas House Gang. You can also find it on YouTube. So if all else fails, it's late at night or something, and you want to say, well, I wonder what those knuckleheads were talking about. It's easy to find on YouTube. Very, very easy to find. So Gas House Gang, KMOX, YouTube, you'll find it. And you can watch, and the whole library of those shows is on there.
I should point out too that it's also going to be live on KMOX on the radio side at nights at 8:00 following Sports Open Line when we don't have a game. So like tonight we have Thursday night football. So this won't be coming out tonight, but on a night when we don't have a sports conflict, when we don't have a Billikens game or something like that, it'll be airing live at 8:00 at night too. All right. We only got a few minutes, Bernie. Let's do this quick. You got the Tyson Paul fight tomorrow. I've not covered boxing, but I've been following it going back. I mean, like I go back to like Larry Holmes' emergence as the heavyweight champ. I remember staying up late as a kid to watch Sugar Ray Leonard fight Tommy Hearns. It was a really big deal because Tommy the Hitman Hearns was from Detroit, and that's where I grew up. So I go back a long way. I've been around since the beginning of the Tyson thing. You have as well. Tyson's, I think, between our ages. I'm really curious about this fight for the one reason. And there's a lot of like side stories, but for one reason, it's fascinating to me. Is this about youth and athleticism, because this is a combat sport, right? I mean, this is a very physical sport. Is it about youth and athleticism, which is what favors Jake Paul, or is it about experience and punching power and knowledge? Because this is one of the great heavyweights of modern times. I don't know if I want to go, I'm not going to throw him in there with guys like Joe Louis and Rocky Marciano and Muhammad Ali and all of that. I'm not going there, but in the last 50, 60 years, this is one of the best heavyweights that we've seen, maybe the best one in that time frame, going up against a total amateur. He's fought tomato cans. He's fought people that aren't boxers. He's not fighting pro fighters that are working their way up the ranks and talking about Jake Paul, which is why this is fascinating. So what matters more? Is it the experience and the toughness and the knowledge that comes along with being a great, or is it youth and athleticism?
It's a great question. It's one of the reasons I want to watch it. I do admit that, I'm kind of drawn to the freak show aspect of this as well. I am. And I covered a lot of Mike Tyson fights, including when it took him, I'm exaggerating on purpose, it took him like 6 seconds to dispose of Michael Spinks in Atlantic City. I was ringside for that one. Also saw him bite off part of Evander Holyfield's ear. So I've been in a lot of those fights. I mean, by the way, one of the best sporting events I ever covered. I still can't believe I was there. Remember the Thomas Hearns Marvin Hagler fight in Vegas?
Oh my God! Yeah, you were there.
The greatest first round ever. And it was 3 rounds of fury. It just violence and fury, and just big, huge blows. And you're wondering how are these guys even standing up? And I remember sitting there, I'm three rows from the ring, and just like looking up at it like it. Wow, is this really happening? Anyway, so I love boxing. No, listen, to extend on your point, I'll be quick. I don't know what to expect from Paul, but I totally defer to you, and I obviously agree with you that younger, more athletic. I don't know what kind of condition Tyson is in terms of, listen, in terms of ring savvy, moxie, being able to do, those kind of clutch and grab things. You sneak in a shot.
Yeah.
You know every angle there is. You can get away with borderline dirty stuff, that kind of thing.
And you've been hit, like, for real.
Right. But does he have the reflexes? Does he have the stamina? Does he have that old Mike Tyson, endless type of competitive, intense fury to where he will last and he'll be able to take advantage of the gifts that he has, which is his experience, his age, his ring savvy, his moxie, understanding how you can hurt people, in non-traditional ways. And I hope he doesn't try to bite off anybody's ears.
No biting, please. He's a much more chill guy now than he used to be.
I just don't know if Mike Tyson is kind of a burned out husk of what he used to be. He should be that, but I don't know what's still there. And that's why it's fascinating. Part of it is because I spent a lot of my time as a sports writer covering his fight. So I'm naturally drawn to see who is Mike Tyson in the ring right now. And I don't have high expectations. Why should I, with his age and all the wear and tear?
Yeah. And for those that don't know, and we'll kind of wrap here on this little bit of ending here. We don't since we're not on the air tonight, we don't have to be hard and fast, Bernie. We can go a little long, but the rules are a little different. Okay. So it's an 8-round fight, which is, again, a lot of the rules that are different. There's 2 rules that are different that are really, to me, beneficial to Mike Tyson, is that the rounds are 2 minutes instead of 3. So, that's where your stamina, really, you get into that last minute of a fight, of a round of a fight, whether it's MMA or boxing, whatever, that's where it starts to get hard as it goes. And not that it's not hard all the time, but the longer it goes, the harder it gets. So only 2-minute rounds, only 8 rounds, and they're swinging bigger gloves, which I actually think kind of plays into Jake Paul's favor. Normally they're lighter gloves, which means you're going to feel it a little bit more. So the bigger gloves are a little padded. So a guy like Jake Paul hasn't really been hit by a real hitting boxer. He's fought MMA guys and beaten them, but those guys were limited because it wasn't their area of expertise. He's fought some guys that weren't really like pro boxers. And I think that helps him, because if Mike Tyson's going to win, it's probably going to be because he lands one. Right? Because he catches Jake Paul in the chin and turns the lights out. That is a lot less likely to me with the bigger gloves, the heavier gloves, the softer gloves.
You got to pick?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick Tyson, but I'm flipping a coin, man. I mean, he's the underdog, by the way. If you look at Vegas, Jake Paul's favored, and I think Tyson is like plus 175. But he was plus 250 or so a few days ago. So a lot of money coming in on Tyson. And I don't know. I feel like some of that, Bernie, is wishful thinking. Like, a lot of us would like the old school champion to knock out the big mouth YouTuber. And, it's not like Mike Tyson's been a good guy over these years. I mean, he's a better guy now than he was in his youth. He had his issues for a long time there,
sure
including the ear biting, but also outside the ring in regular world. But Jake Paul annoys some people of our age group. So there's kind of a generation gap here. I bet the younger fans want to see Jake Paul whip his butt.
Can I tell you a quick story, since we don't have a hard time limit?
Let's go.
I covered the Tyson Michael Spinks fight, but about 3 weeks before the fight, I was invited to fly. I was covering boxing for the Dallas Morning News before the football season started. So the Dallas Morning News, influential paper in the Southwest and everything. So one of the promoters said, "Get your boxing writer here, and I can get you a one-on-one with Tyson," because they wanted to drum up pay-per-view sales in the Dallas Fort Worth market. Smart. So I fly to Philadelphia, drive to Atlantic City, watch a couple of workouts. I'm led to a hotel suite. Tyson's sitting there, and I could tell right away he's in a bad mood. He just was not interested. It was like, I'm the wrong guy to walk into that suite. So my legendary sports editor at the Dallas Morning News, Dave Smith, he said, "Listen, I know we're not People Magazine. I get all that. Like, okay, I get it. But you got to ask him about all this Robin Givens stuff, because it's all anybody's talking about. I'm not turning you a gossip writer, but you got to ask him. Don't get back on that plane unless you ask him, like an old time editor, don't come back here. You won't have a job, So I said, Champ, I know that this isn't one of your favorite subjects, but I have to ask you, however I phrased the questions about your marriage to Robin Givney. He says, I don't talk about that. That's it. That's it. I'm not talking about that. And he used some other words too.
Oh,
so
I bet they were friendly words.
Yeah, he was talking a little bit, and I thought, well, I'll try to worm my way back in there, and I went about it a different way. And he said, listen, I told you I'm not talking about that. So why would you disrespect me by asking me again? Fair question. So I'm thinking of that sports editor. I have his voice in my head, don't come back unless you get something on it. So I tried one more time, and he stood up. Mike Tyson stood up. I wish I could use the language. He said, you blankety blank, blankety blank, blankety blank. He said, I asked you, I was nice. I told you 2 times not to ask me about that. And you disrespect me. You asked me that a 3rd time. He said, you see this right here? He said, I could punch down right now on your face and drive your nose through your skull and you're dead. You get the message? He said, do we understand each other now? One punch, your nose disappears into your head.
Oh,
and
man.
Your skull is wrecked and you're dead. And they're going to have to come in here and clean you up.
Wow.
And I said, Champ, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Forgive me. You don't have to kill me. You don't have to murder me. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
So that's one of my most memorable sports writing stories.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Mike Tyson
punch you in the face,
standing over me in a hotel suite in Atlantic City, threatening to murder me. So, hey, it's all in a career, right?
Yeah, that is, by the way, what's going to be great about the Gashouse gang moving forward, because we've all got stories. I don't know if I have one that good, but we'll be bringing those stories into the mix along with daily Cardinals coverage. Right. The Blues, when the Blues earn some more attention, we'll give it to them. They've got to start playing a little better, but they'll be every day. College football, eventually some NFL too, and we'll have it all covered right here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, later on podcast, on KLOX, on the air at times. And in wrapping up, by the way, thanks to everybody watching. We appreciate you. Comments are going to be included more and more as we go. So thank you for those as well. And then thanks to Saliga Heating and Cooling. I don't know who Cooley is. Thanks to Saliga Heating and Cooling for being a part of it. You can see them right up there above Bernie's head, but they're now one of the sponsors of the Gashouse gang. It's great to have them with us.
SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. You find out everything. And thanks to Dan Saliga for helping us out and being part of our show.
All right, Bern. Have a good one, buddy. We'll look forward to seeing you Matt tomorrow.
Great talking to you as always, my friend.
Going to wrap it up for the Gashouse gang here on all of your favorite KMOX News social media channels.